Okay, I'll get started this morning by just officially welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung, Sawadee Kap. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Welcome to everyone that's here, and welcome to everyone who's online as well. Today is what we call our Pali Canon and English study group. I'll explain to you guys what that is as we get started in our class today. We start our classes with a meditation to be able to help you guys to learn meditation. Everything that we share here is all about helping you to get to this enlightened mental state that the Buddha taught over 2,500 years ago. What enlightenment is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Even the slightest displeasure is eliminated from the mind as you train your mind using the teachings and the techniques that the Buddha shares. You get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood anymore. Your mind's focused, you have concentration, clarity, your personal, your professional relationships will really blossom because you're not being harsh and hostile in any of your relationships any longer. So you can actually train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state, and meditation is an important component of that, but you need to learn other things besides just meditation. But since meditation is so important, we will typically start each one of our classes with meditation. So I invite you guys to join for what we refer to as breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a primary form of meditation that the Buddha taught in order to train the mind to get to enlightenment because you're accomplishing specific goals in this meditation. We can talk a little bit about it after we actually do it. I think it's better for you to actually experience it before we actually start talking about it, so then you'll have a frame of reference to understand. So the way that we start meditation is I do chanting in order to ease the mind into meditation. The chants are on a laminated sheet on the table over there. You're welcome to get a version of that and chant along if you like. It even has the English translations. You'll notice that they're in the Pali language. The Pali language is the original source language of the teachings of the Buddha. And today, we use these chants in order to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. That during the lifetime of the Buddha, he taught everything orally. So every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would chant his teachings word for word for word. This is the way they committed them to memory, by reciting them. So there's nothing mystical or magical about these chants. It's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. If you read the English translations, you'll see a lot of admiration and gratitude and respect for the Buddha. So I suspect that his students actually created these, that the Buddha didn't create these chants himself, because a Buddha doesn't walk around and teach people to chant these things to him out of admiration and respect to him, because he would have eliminated his ego and any kind of arrogance or boastfulness. So as you read the English translations, you can see this respect and gratitude that is given to the Buddha by his students, because if you learned from a teacher who helped you go from this anger and sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings to the point where your mind's peaceful and joyful permanently for the rest of this life, you would have a lot of admiration and respect for that person too, because he didn't want anything from his students. He didn't expect anything from his students. He just shared teachings that would help them to be able to experience this enlightened mental state. So these chants are something we use nowadays in order to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation, because it invigorates the mind. It gives you awareness of the mind and awareness of the breath. So again, there isn't anything mystical or magical here with the chants. It's not prayer or worship or anything like that. Once we do the chanting, we'll be in the meditation, and I'll be sharing some guidance that as we're meditating, those of us here and everyone online, you'll be hearing me guide you for a period of time in the meditation. But then there'll be a period of time where it'll just be quiet. I won't be saying anything. We'll all be meditating together. I'm sure you'll hear the dog bark maybe, or a bird chirp, or maybe an occasional car go by, but all these things are just impermanent. You'll hear sounds that are impermanent. So as these things are occurring, you'll hear in the meditation how I guide you what to do when your mind moves away into one of these other situations. So after we meditate for a period of time, then I'll in the meditation with a chant where we'll come out with the same chants that we went into meditation with, and you're welcome to join along in these chants as we go. When you're learning to meditate, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. They're seated, lying, standing, and walking, because your body can't be permanently in the same position all the time. You're going to need these different positions at different times for different reasons. Typically, when people are first learning, they will learn in the seated position, either on the floor or in a chair. You're welcome to get a chair if you like. You can sit however you're comfortable. If you're experiencing any pain during meditation, you should switch your positioning. That you shouldn't just breathe through the pain. This would be unwise, because pain is your body telling you, hey, something's wrong here. Take action. So if you need a chair, or you need more than one cushion, feel free to make yourself comfortable. If you're on the floor, like I see all of you guys are, you usually cross your legs lightly rather than real tight, because if you cross your legs real tight, it'll inhibit the circulation and you'll notice there'll be some pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and allows the circulation to flow more readily. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But this practice isn't about everybody doing it exactly the same way. That's not actually possible. Because of the universal truth of impermanence, which is one of the beginning teachings of the Buddha, it's not possible for every single body to be comfortable in the same position. So there's other options too. If you feel comfortable with your hands in your lap, right hand over left, wonderful. Use it if you'd like. But you could also put your palms on your thighs or your knees. Some people like to put their palms up. Some people just rest their hands in their lap. So whatever is comfortable. You'd like your lower body and the hands and arms to be comfortable, not luxurious and not painful. And if you're in a chair, it's essentially the same thing. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, and then your hands and arms are just wherever feels comfortable for you. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. With the sternum up and the shoulders back, it allows you to breathe into the lungs, and it also helps to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind might be overactive or uptight. So by keeping the upper body erect, which is in the middle, now the mind can be attentive and alert during the meditation. So as I mentioned, I'm going to ease us into meditation with a chant. You're welcome to join along, and then I'll be back with some guidance to help guide you in the meditation itself. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti pisu Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno สกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวาปมานุสนังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, establishing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath. Either the sound of the breath coming into the nose, or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะคะวะพุทธังมหาคะวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาคะวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, I'd like to once again welcome all of you guys that are here at the temple, and welcome to everyone online. Nice to see you guys here, including those of you guys that joined us since we started meditating. Welcome to all of you. For those of you guys that are here for the first time at this temple, I'd like to just help you to understand a little bit about the temple, is that if you like to use the restroom at any point, there's a restroom in the back of the room, the last door on the right. Feel free to get up and make your way to the restroom and use that at any point. There's even main bathrooms outside this classroom. If you go outside the classroom, you can follow the signs around to the main temple bathrooms, and there's additional bathrooms outside. We even have water here that is provided by our students, that if you would ever like any water, you're welcome to make yourself comfortable. So as we go in the class, just feel free to make yourself comfortable however you like to do that. There's no rules or requirements or anything like that. Just make yourself at home. So this meditation that I just shared with you, this is called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a primary form of training that the Buddha used in order to move his mind to enlightenment, but you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. It's not possible to accomplish that. You need meditation. You wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation, but you can't just meditate your way to enlightenment. The teachings of the Buddha, it's not about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. There's no rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship that's part of the teachings of the Buddha, you're learning teachings, you're investigating them and examining them. You're reflecting on those teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false, and then you're practicing these teachings. And as you're practicing the teachings, you're using various tools and techniques to uproot these pollutions of the mind that the Buddha discovered. He discovered 10 individual pollutions in the mind. They're referred to as the 10 fetters. What a fetter is during ancient times, they would put a shackle and a chain and a ball around a prisoner's leg, and this is how they would keep them confined to a certain area. They would put a fetter on their leg, and this is what a prisoner would have in order to keep them confined to one particular area. Well, the 10 fetters, or these 10 pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, it's keeping the mind trapped in this unenlightened state, where the mind keeps experiencing anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy, various displeasures, sorrow, grief, all these different feelings that are experienced. This is what the unenlightened mind is experiencing because it's untrained, and it has certain pollutions that are in the mind. But if you learn the teachings of the Buddha and you apply his tools and techniques, then you can uproot these pollutions out of the mind, and you'll see that the mind becomes peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You get to the point where you never experience any anger or any of those other discontent feelings ever again. It's impossible for the enlightened mind to experience anger, sadness, or frustration, or any of those discontent feelings. But this doesn't come through belief. You don't believe your way to that. And there's no rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship or prayer that's going to produce that mental state for you. It comes through acquiring wisdom. That as you acquire wisdom about the world around you, you're able to navigate this world more wisely, and now you can train your mind uprooting these pollutions, and you'll experience the peace and joy of the enlightened mind. Because when you lack wisdom, you're naturally going to make unwise decisions that produce unwholesome results in your life. And when you lack wisdom, you just don't understand what you don't understand. But when you have wisdom, you can make wiser decisions that then produce wholesome results in your life. So what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is you're awakening to the wisdom of the natural laws of existence. That's what the Buddha taught, is these natural laws about how the world functions. He didn't teach you the way the world should be, and that if everybody follows certain rules and commandments, that then the world will become peaceful. He didn't teach any rules or commandments. He didn't teach the way the world should be. What he did is he taught the way the world is. And when you understand the way the world is, now you will navigate that world more wisely, and now you'll make wise decisions that produce wholesome results in your life. But when you lack wisdom, you're going to naturally make unwise decisions, and it's going to produce unwholesome results in your life. And one of the unwholesome results that one experiences is the anger and the sadness and the frustration and all these other discontent feelings, because the mind doesn't have the wisdom to understand how to train itself. So if you live in a world that you don't understand, you will struggle. You will have difficulties. And this is the challenge that the unenlightened mind is experiencing. But when you investigate teachings, when you learn them, when you examine them, and you don't believe them, you reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or false, then you start practicing the teachings, you can uproot these pollutions. You can get to the point where the mind's liberated. It has freedom from these strong feelings, and you experience the peace and joy for the remaining time of your life, and you won't experience the continued struggles that one experiences in life. So this idea of making wise decisions that produces wholesome results, or these unwise decisions that produce unwholesome results, this is referred to as the natural law of Gotama, or some people refer to it as karma. The word karma is from the Sanskrit version of a language. It's a certain language, but the original teachings of the Buddha are in what's called the Pali language. So people who study the original teachings of the Buddha will tend to use the word Gotama. This word Gotama, if it translated to just one English word, I would just use that word because it'd be much easier for everyone to understand it. But it doesn't translate to just one English word. What it means is it means cause and effect, or action and result. Essentially, every decision that you make, it's going to produce some result. And when you lack wisdom of this natural law, you will tend to make these unwise decisions that produce unwholesome results. But when you have wisdom of this natural law through learning, reflecting, and practicing, then you'll make wise decisions that produce wholesome results in your life. So the natural law of karma, it's not punishments and rewards. It's not mystical or magical. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's not some being or some entity controlling things and deciding who gets what. It's about the results of your decisions. Well, that when you make a decision, it's going to produce some type of result in the world. There's a cause and effect, or action and result, essentially a sequencing of events. So these natural laws that the Buddha taught, they're affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. And you can learn about these natural laws, and then you can see the truth for yourself that they actually exist. It's just like with the natural law of gravity, that at one time, none of us understood the natural law of gravity. As we were growing up at 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, we didn't understand the natural law of gravity, but it affected us. Whether we were aware of it or not, it still affected us. And because we lacked wisdom of this natural law, we made unwise decisions, and it produced unwholesome results. We fell down, we hit our head, we hit our elbow, we broke our toys, we broke other things. We had difficulties with this natural law of gravity. We struggled in the world because of our lack of wisdom. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of this natural law of gravity. And by the time we were 10, 12, 14 years old, we started making wiser decisions, and it was producing wholesome results for us. So now we're at the point where we can ride a bicycle, we can climb ladders, we can get on airplanes and travel all over the world. We naturally make wiser decisions about how we move about the world because we understand this natural law and we saw the truth for ourselves. Even me, I have this glass of water behind me that I know that I should put it behind me, because if I put it in front of me, I'm more likely to knock it over, right? And it's going to spill. This is because of the natural law of gravity. Nobody ever told me to put this cup of water behind me. It's just that you naturally make wiser decisions when you have wisdom of the world around you and how the world functions. So when you're experiencing the anger and the sadness and the frustration and all those other difficult feelings, this is the mind struggling in the world because it doesn't understand the world around it. It doesn't understand how the mind functions. And you're naturally going to make unwise decisions when you lack wisdom, and now you're going to experience unwholesome results in your life. What you experience in life, it isn't good luck or bad luck. It isn't fate or destiny. It's the results of your decisions. And when you make wise decisions, you'll see that you can get to a point where you're only experiencing wholesome results in the world. That you can get to a point where your relationships don't have bitterness and hostility and animosity in your relationships. You can have very fulfilling and very satisfying relationships, but you need the wisdom of how to train your mind and how to navigate the world through these natural laws. So that's what the teachings of the Buddha are for, is to help you awaken to that wisdom. And one of the wisdoms that he's sharing with you is about how to train the mind and how to purify the mind. And meditation that we just did is one of the techniques and one of the tools that he teaches you in order to help you train your mind and uproot these pollutions. So what we were doing in meditation by focusing on the breath is we were cultivating the wholesome qualities of mindfulness and concentration. Mindfulness is awareness of mind, where you can be aware of what's going on in the mind. Because in the unenlightened state, we tend to not even be aware of what's going on in the mind. We just plow through the world doing whatever we think is the good idea. And we tend to lack concentration in the unenlightened state because of the pollutions in the mind. The mind will lack concentration. So when you're focused on the breath, your goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that's the goal. So if you had multiple thoughts during your meditation, sometimes people are bombarded with thoughts. You didn't do anything wrong. You're not bad at meditation. This is just the mind being untrained, that you might have a bombardment of thoughts. Or you might have had a thought and you indulge in that thought for a period of time, maybe 2 or 3 minutes down the road, and you realize, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back, right? And you kind of brought your mind back after 2 or 3 minutes or so. This is very common because the mind doesn't have the ability to let go. This is what you're doing in the breathing mindfulness meditation, is you're arising this mindfulness or awareness of mind, the concentration, which is focus and clarity, and you're also developing the ability for the mind to let go, to let go, to let go. So if 20, 30, 50 times during your meditation, you had to let go and let go and let go and keep coming back to the breath, this is wonderful because you're training your mind to let go. What's causing this anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings is the mind is holding on. It's wanting things to be a certain way. This is called craving, desire, attachment, wants, expectation, longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of your affection. The unenlightened mind thinks the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So it will chase after it. Whether it's a new pair of shoes, whether it's a new job, whether it's a new boyfriend or girlfriend, or more money, or a bigger house, or a bigger car, the mind thinks this external thing is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So the mind will chase after that. And if it gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets these painful feelings. The pleasant feelings are things like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. The painful feelings are things like sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. These are very painful for the mind to experience. So when the mind is thinking that it can fulfill itself through something external, it will think that this boyfriend or girlfriend is going to provide me what I need, and I want this boyfriend or girlfriend to make me feel whole. Or I want this new pair of shoes, or this new car, or this new house, or something like this. And if the mind gets what it wants, it gets those pleasant feelings. It gets happy, but it's only temporary, because it's what's called conditional happiness. This happiness that arises, it changes, and then it fades away. And ultimately, the mind ends up back in the sad feelings, or the frustration, or the irritation, or annoyance, or some other discontent feeling, because it's a conditional feeling. The mind has based its inner feelings on some condition. And because that condition is not permanent, when the condition changes due to impermanence, then your feeling is going to change too. Your feeling is going to move to sadness, frustration, or some other feeling. So let me give you a simple example. If you have a craving, a desire, attachment, a longing, a yearning, a want for it to be sunny outside, when you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside, you might get happy. You might get excited, like, yay, it's so wonderful. We're going to go outside and play. We're going to go hiking. Oh, this is going to be so great. I'm going to call all my friends. We're going to go outside and play. So now you formed happiness, excitement, based on the condition of the sun. Now you go take a shower and you come outside from the shower and you see it's raining. Now that condition has changed. So that feeling that you had of happiness, excitement, that conditional feeling based on the condition of the sun, because the sun was impermanent, your feeling was impermanent too. And now your mind moves to sadness or frustration or agitation. Or if you're in the mall and you see a brand new pair of shoes in the window of the store, and you're like, oh, yes, new pair of shoes. Oh, this is going to be so great. They're so beautiful. I can't wait to go in there and get those new pair of shoes. Again, if you get them, you'll get happy and excited. But over time, that happiness wears away because they're not going to be new shoes forever. Or if you go into the store and they don't have your size, and they're like, oh, sorry, we don't have your size. You'll be frustrated. You'll be agitated because you formed your excitement, your happiness on the condition of, I want this new pair of shoes. And if you get it, you'll get happy. And if you don't get it, you'll get sad or frustrated. So the unenlightened mind is going up and down and up and down and up and down based on forming its inner feelings on some condition. These are called conditional feelings. So this is the problem that the Buddha discovered in the mind, that the unenlightened mind can experience permanent peace, permanent joy, because it's forming its inner feelings based on cravings, desires, attachments. It's experiencing these conditional feelings. So the Buddha is teaching you throughout his path to enlightenment how to purify the mind and uproot the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. And when you uproot the causes and conditions inside your own mind that's causing these feelings, then you can get to the peace and to the joy where that can actually be permanent, because the mind no longer has these pollutions that are producing these discontent feelings. So when the mind is experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings, because of its lack of wisdom, it will tend to blame those feelings on somebody else. You might think that your mom or your dad or your brothers or your sisters or your coworker or your boss is causing you to be angry or frustrated. This is the lack of wisdom that the unenlightened mind has. It's not something external that's causing your mind to be angry and frustrated. It's internal to the mind. But because of the mind's lack of wisdom in the unenlightened state, when you think that somebody else is causing you to be angry, you will tend to push people away out of your life. This is called aversion. And the mind thinks that this is the way to solve the problem. I'll either push the situation or I'll push the person out of my life. But that doesn't actually solve the problem, because it's only a matter of time before you get angry or irritated or annoyed again. If that was the real cause of the problem, this person or this situation, when you pushed it out of your life, you would be peaceful and joyful the rest of your life because you've solved the problem. But that's not the actual real problem. That's why when you push people out of your life, you still get irritated and annoyed. Or the other thing that the unenlightened mind will do when it has a lack of wisdom is it'll become bitter and harsh and hostile towards that person. And then you might feel justified in your anger. And this is like an animal trying to fear somebody into doing what it wants you to do, because the mind thinks if I can just get this person to do what I want, then everything will be perfect, because the mind's trying to get those cravings fulfilled. Or the third thing that the unenlightened mind will do with a lack of wisdom is it might put its expectations on other people. It might try to control other people and pressure other people into doing things your way. And none of these work. And the number of people that you can spend time with in your life becomes fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer. As your expectations grow and the things that you want from another person, there's fewer and fewer people in the world that you can spend time with, because it's only a matter of time before somebody does something you disagree with. And when you disagree with what they do, you might push them away. You might be bitter, harsh, and hostile, and they might choose to leave out of your life. Or you'll put your expectations on somebody, and then they'll feel pressured and controlled, and they might choose to leave out of your life. So in this type of situation where the unenlightened mind is lacking wisdom, it can't live harmoniously with all beings. So in order to get to the point where you can have fulfilling and satisfying relationships with everyone around you, you need to do this inner work to train your own mind. And that's why the very first teaching of the Buddha is to help you understand that your mind is causing its own discontent feelings. As long as you kept believing that other people are causing you to be angry, you would go around pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile, and putting your expectations on people. But when you understand that your mind is causing its own discontent feelings, then you can see the real problem and you can implement the solutions that are actually going to solve it. So as I'm sharing this with you, you shouldn't believe what I'm sharing with you. You should never believe anything that somebody's sharing with you. You need to be able to learn it, to reflect on it, to independently verify it, and practice to see the truth. So what I'm sharing with you is this craving, desire, attachment, this mental longing, strong eagerness is causing you to be angry and frustrated. That if you get what you want, you get pleasant feelings. But if you don't get what you want, you get painful feelings. This is what I'm sharing with you. But don't just believe what I'm sharing. Take this and now reflect on it. Think about a recent situation where you've been angry, you've been frustrated, you've been irritated. It might have been this morning, it might have been yesterday, it might have been last week. Now, at that time, you might have been looking for someone else to blame, because this is what the unenlightened mind typically does, is it looks around for somebody else to blame for the feelings that you're experiencing. And if you did this, no worries. You're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just the mind that lacks wisdom. But now with these fresh eyes, with this new wisdom that I'm sharing with you, that your mind is causing its own discontent feelings due to craving, desire, attachment, look at that same situation. This morning, yesterday, last week, where you got irritated or annoyed or frustrated, look at that situation. There was something your mind wanted. And if you would have got what you wanted, you would have got happy. You would have got excited. You would have been thrilled. You would have had pleasant feelings. But because you didn't get what you wanted, your mind got irritated or annoyed or frustrated. Can you look at it and can you see for yourself? If you can't see that for yourself, you can let me know and I will help you. You're welcome to ask questions here at the temple. You just need to raise your hand. We have microphones here in the white bowl. If you use those microphones, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and the people online will be able to hear you as well. There's a little gray switch on the front. You just press that. You wait a second or two and the lights come on, and then you hold it up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here and online. And for those of you guys online, you can ask questions through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, and I'll be able to see that in the comment section. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and I'll be able to see that, and you'll be able to open up your microphone and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple. So this is kind of like a portion of the beginning teachings of the Buddha, of what I'm sharing with you, just kind of a summarized version. that the Buddha discovered that the unenlightened mind is going up and down and up and down and up and down, and it can't maintain its peacefulness and joy permanently. And when he discovered the causes and conditions that are producing this, and then he provided the tools and techniques that it took for him to get to that enlightened mental state. So the Buddha didn't give you rules and commandments about how to live your life and try to force you or control you to do anything. He didn't give you a bunch of beliefs. He didn't provide rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship and prayers and things like this. He taught you how to make your way to this enlightened mental state based on what he did in order to produce that enlightened mental state for himself. He got to enlightenment by himself, so he understood how to actually accomplish it. But you're going to need teachers and guides to be able to help you along the way, because you're not a Buddha. A Buddha would be able to get to enlightenment by themselves. So he shared the teachings that it took for him to gradually awaken to this enlightened mental state through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And as you learn that, as you reflect on it, and as you practice it to uproot these pollutions in the mind, you'll see that your mind's becoming more and more peaceful and more joyful. Because you know, in situations where you've been angry and frustrated and bitter and hostile in the past, and when those situations are occurring, but you're not experiencing those feelings anymore, your mind's peaceful and joyful, you'll know that it's these teachings that are working to help you accomplish that, if you choose to implement the teachings into your day-to-day life. So do you guys have any questions on the meditation that we did, or anything that I just shared? You're welcome to ask questions. Yes, ma'am. If you could get a microphone here. And you're welcome to keep those with you, because as you guys have questions, you can pass them around, and everybody can have access to the microphones. Go ahead. I'm not sure if it's on or not. I'm not sure if the microphone's on or not. Is the light on? Maybe somebody can help out. There's a little switch there. The light will come on, and then it'll go off.
Yes, now?
There you go. Yeah,
okay.
We got you now.
So I come again and again to this question. Many times I came. I resonate with what you said. I feel it's true. And at the same time, I get stuck, because if I think that everything comes from my mind, and I understand what you mean and I agree, at the same time, how do we take action to change things when for our values or whatever need to be changed? Like, how to evolve, like animals also have evolution. And so there is some uncomfortable feeling that bring us to take action. So if we accept everything, if we think that it's always only coming from our mind, the discomfort, then we don't do anything. So that my struggle,
Sure. So the Buddha laid out a path. It's called the Eightfold Path. There's 8 individual factors on this path. And what you do is you learn, you reflect, and you practice to train your mind through this Eightfold Path, these 8 factors. And now as you train your mind with these 8 factors, you're uprooting this pollution out of the mind, and that's the action that you're taking. You're taking the action to learn by coming to the temple or reading books from a teacher. You're attending classes maybe online, because nowadays we can share teachings through the online. You don't have to just come to the temple, and you can even consult with a teacher privately, and you develop a life practice. You develop this practice of actively training the mind in meditation, but also outside of meditation too. There's training that you do. So just like you clean this body every day and you take action to clean this body, you need to take action to clean the mind every day. And as you're training your mind and cleaning the mind, you're uprooting the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. And that's what ultimately produces the inner change. The work that you need to do on the path to enlightenment is here within your own mind. Oftentimes what people think the way to get the world to a peaceful place is they feel like they have to go out and change the world. This is oftentimes what people are taught, to go out and change the world. But what you need to do is understand the world. You need to understand how the world is through these natural laws. And when you understand how this world is through a rising wisdom within your own mind and purifying your own mind, you can get to the peace and joy. You won't get to peace and joy by teaching other people what to do. This is what the unenlightened mind will sometimes think is, we got to go out and train other people to do things our way. But the problem is that there's 8 billion people in the world, and we can't train 8 billion people to do things one specific way. That's not possible. So if you decide that you would like to get on the path to enlightenment, I have a book series that you can get access to free. You can download it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here at the temple or from our Amazon. You can order them from there if you have access to Amazon in your country. And you can gradually learn through the various programs that we have. There are certain courses, classes, and retreats that we offer, and even private guidance to be able to help you as well. So gradually, slowly but surely, your mind needs to awaken to the wisdom that the Buddha taught, and as you do, and you're training your mind, you'll get to the peace and the joy. And you're not just accepting things, you're actively investigating and examining, and then that's what gives you the wisdom through learning, reflecting, and practicing and uprooting these pollutions out of the mind. And as you acquire this wisdom, your mind's going to become more and more peaceful and more joyful as you're training your mind. Does that help you? Yeah? Does that give you what you need? Does that give you what you need? Does that give you the information you need to get started?
There is anything more I want to say?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm also not hearing you.
Okay. I'm asking, does that give you the information you need to get started on the path to enlightenment and understand the action that you need to take? You asked me, you said you get stuck with how to take action to be able to get to this peace and joy that I'm talking about, right?
Yes, my question is about different way of taking action. Let's say, when we want to change the world or help someone, even just you see someone who is struggling, who is not happy, or people who are fighting, or whatever can have whatever situation. You want to do something. If you of course, I want to do something because it causes me discomfort, but also because I have empathy. I don't want the other to suffer. So this it makes me take action. And if I think that is always, if I take time, and it takes time for training my mind, then I miss the opportunity to take action.
Okay.
Also, when you have to choose with the people you are surrounded by somehow, no? So in a way, I think is right. It comes from our wisdom, training our mind. On the other hand, we come to a point that we have to see, okay, be with this person is not helpful for me. Be with this other person is helpful for me. So I think we shouldn't wait till we are wise before taking action, because life is going on.
So you're not going to get to peace and joy by fixing other people.
Sorry?
You can't get to peace and joy by fixing other people. Your goal in life is not to fix other people. So if you're saying that you feel pain, or you're feeling uncomfortable when you see other people fight, or when you see other people suffering, the reason why that is occurring, the reason why your mind's experiencing painful feelings, is not because somebody is suffering. It's not because somebody's fighting. That's not what's causing your inner feelings. It's not this external thing that's causing your inner feelings. So by fixing this external thing, it's not going to fix your feelings, because it's only a matter of time before you see somebody else argue and somebody else fight, or somebody else have suffering. What's causing your inner feelings is your cravings, your desires, your attachments, wanting the world to be a certain way, wanting people to be a certain way. So if you're going to be interested in getting to peace and joy, you don't get to that by fixing other people. You got to fix your own mind by eliminating your own cravings, wanting people to be a certain way. Then you can get to the peace and the joy. You can't produce happiness for somebody else. If somebody else is unhappy, it's because of what's going on in their mind. So they need to do the work to train their mind, but you need to do the work to train your mind. You can't get to peace and joy by fixing other people. What's that? Of course, yeah, we're having a conversation. This is a discussion.
As I said, I understand what you mean, but I feel like is a balance between both. Because if I only train my mind, I do nothing for the other. What a life is like. I'm not like that. I really understand what you mean, and that's part of what I want to do. But it's not only that. I think we are social beings. We have empathy. We are a mirror of each other. So it's also natural that we feel discomfort when the other feels discomfort for a certain reason. So it's not only, for me, it's not only by fixing my peace of mind that I can do something. So I feel it should be a balance between both sides, but I wonder where to find that balance because it's difficult. With the practice of Buddhism, I think maybe there is a misunderstanding many times, and we might think that always by meditation that we solve things, but maybe not. So let's start because where is the balance?
Okay, so because you don't fully understand the whole path to enlightenment, you're not seeing everything clearly. And right now you're thinking that the problem is external. You're thinking that it's natural to feel discomfort when somebody else is feeling discomfort. This is because this is all that you've ever experienced at this point. You haven't experienced being peaceful and joyful even though somebody else is suffering. You don't understand how to accomplish that in the mind. So what Buddhism is teaching, what the Buddha taught, is not to be self-absorbed and just do everything for yourself. Part of the training of your mind is to practice generosity, which is to eliminate selfishness. And what generosity is that you practice the giving and sharing of your time, your effort, your energy, and your resources more than strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return. That's part of the practice. But what we're talking about so far and where your mind is stuck, because that's what you said. You said, I'm stuck. Right? The reason why your mind is stuck is because you're seeing the problem as being external. You're seeing that this person's suffering, so therefore I'm going to be sad or I'm going to be frustrated. This person's unhappy, so I'm going to be unhappy too. This is what's called a conditioned feeling, that you're basing your inner feelings on some condition. If everybody in the world is peaceful, then I will be peaceful. I'm getting what I want. I got my pleasant feelings because I got my cravings fulfilled. But if somebody else in the world is unhappy or if they're suffering, I'm going to feel painful feelings. This is called conditional feelings. So as long as your mind is experiencing the shaking up and down, you're going to make unwise decisions because your mind's uncalm. So you can't access wisdom. What the Buddha is teaching you is how to maintain your calmness and composure, get to the point where your mind's not shaken up by all these external things, that you can maintain your peace and joy despite what's going on in the world. And when you can maintain your peace and joy despite what's going on in the world, part of what you can do is practice generosity where you do help other people. Look at me, here I am helping people, right? So Buddhism isn't about just being self-absorbed and only helping yourself. It's about helping other people as well. But you need to understand that in helping other people, that's not what's going to lead to your peacefulness and your joy. You've got to first understand what the problem is that's causing your sadness or frustration or sorrow or despair. It's inside your own mind. The cravings, the desires, the wanting the world to be a certain way. And if the world's that way, I'll be happy. And if the world's not that way, you'll be sad. This is just like the simple example of if it's sunny outside, I'll be happy. And if it's raining outside, I'll be frustrated and agitated or annoyed. Because of the universal truth of impermanence, everything around you is impermanent. You are not going to live during a time where everyone is peaceful. It's just not possible. So as long as your mind is wanting everyone to be peaceful, and you can only be peaceful when everyone else is peaceful, you'll never be peaceful because you're stuck. Like you said, you're stuck because you're not understanding that you're craving permanence. You're wanting things to be one particular way permanently, And the mind can only be happy when it gets that. But because everything around you is impermanent, that's why your mind experiences the sorrow and despair, because as long as it's craving permanence, it can't get that because you live in an impermanent world. For example, if you had a car, brand new car, and when you got this brand new car, you got pleasant feelings. But then when you park your car at a store and you come outside and there's a scratch on your car, now you might be sad or frustrated or annoyed. It's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car that's causing you to be frustrated. What's causing you to be frustrated is craving this car to be permanently beautiful. But this car can't be permanently beautiful. It'd be wonderful if nobody ever scratched the car, but that would be a world that is permanent. We don't live in that world. We live in an impermanent world. So as long as you can't be peaceful or happy until everyone else is happy, you're going to continue to be stuck. You need to be able to see what the problem is first, which is your own mind having cravings, wanting things to be permanent. And once you see that problem, then you start implementing the tools and techniques to be able to now uproot that from the mind. And yes, part of it is helping other people. And that's what we do, is we help other people through our generosity and practice of giving and sharing. Make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
You understand
I just
now?
want to clarify that when I say I feel stuck, it's not about that, because as I said, I'm aware of this side. I'm aware of the mind that that I'm aware of what you said. Where I get stuck is to find a balance, because the mind tends to go or one side or the other, or taking action and trying to solve things, or as you said, want to adjust the external part, and at the same time I understand the inner side, that so it's like I don't find the middle way.
Yes.
The mind that is not because I'm craving from outside only. I'm stuck in understanding. The mind wants to understand.
Okay, so you say that you're not stuck because of craving, but I would say that you are stuck because of craving. You just described it. When the mind is in the middle, your mind will be peaceful and joyful. It'll be at ease, right? Your mind's not in the middle. It's not practicing the middle way. On the one side, the mind is going to crave. It's going to long. It's going to yearn. It's going to want things to be a certain way in the world. On the other side, the mind is indifferent and could care less about what's going on in the world. This is two opposite sides of the spectrum that the mind can potentially experience. If you're craving and longing and yearning and wanting the world to be a certain way, you can't get to peacefulness there, because the world will never be the way you want it to be. Never. Because in your mind and your perceptions, the way you think the world should be, it doesn't function that way. The world doesn't function according to each person's mind. The world functions according to the natural laws of existence. So as long as your mind is wanting the world to be a certain way, you'll never get to peacefulness. But if you were indifferent and you could care less about other people, your mind's not going to get to peacefulness there either. It's only when you come to the middle and you train your mind to be in the middle, where in some situations you'll be able to help people, in some situations you won't be able to help people. And that's okay. That's impermanence. But if the mind's permanently wanting to help people and permanently wanting to see everybody be a certain way, then the mind will struggle, because it's not in the middle. It's on either side. So if the mind's craving the world to be a certain way, or if it's indifferent, it could care less about the world, there's not going to be peace and joy in either side. It's only when you come to the middle.
So you're saying that this ability to see whether to take action or not, and it will come with the time. That's what you're saying?
It comes through cultivating wisdom.
Yeah.
And that's what you need, is the Eightfold Path, the core central teaching of the Buddha, to train your mind to be able to understand these natural laws. And then you'll be able to have the wisdom of knowing whether it's wise for you to take action in a particular situation. But even when you take action, you need to be very clear that taking this action isn't what's going to lead to your peace. By you helping somebody get food, for example, that's not going to lead to your peace. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You can still do it. That's practicing generosity. But that's not what's going to lead to your peace. that your peace needs to come from you eliminating your craving for everyone to have food, for example, in this particular example. It'd be wonderful if everyone in the world has food. I aspire for everyone in the world to have food and shelter and clothing and all the wonderful things that they need. But my mind is wise enough to understand that because of impermanence, this is a universal truth. This is the Buddha explaining how the world is. Because of impermanence, it's not possible for everyone in the world to have a particular thing. It's just not possible because of impermanence, that things are constantly changing. Do you understand impermanence when I say the word impermanence? Do you understand this word?
Kind of.
Did you say kind of?
Kind of.
Okay.
It made me wonder, about...
Let me just pause here, because if you don't understand impermanence, you won't understand anything the Buddha has to teach.
Impermanent, I understand what you mean.
Okay, can you say what is impermanence?
That everything changes always in life. So even if there is a good situation for someone, it cannot stay. Like everything in life is moving away, changing. So I understand this.
So is it possible for everyone in the world to be peaceful at this point in time?
Maybe not.
Maybe not? So you don't know. You're not sure.
Well, right now, no, because it's the reality as it is, not.
Okay, is it possible for everyone in the world to have food?
Sorry?
Is it possible for everyone in the world to have food?
I'm not hearing you.
Is it possible for everyone in the world to have food?
Right now?
Yes.
Now, not.
If
things change, maybe yes.
Is it possible for everyone in the world to have water?
Yes, right now, not.
Okay, so that is not possible because of the universal truth of impermanence. It doesn't mean we shouldn't aspire for that. It doesn't mean we shouldn't take action to try to help in situations where we can help. It just is a recognition of the truth that because of the universal truth of impermanence, it's not possible for every single being to have a particular thing. But when your mind is craving for every being to have a particular thing, when you don't get what you want, you will be sad, you will be frustrated, you will feel irritated or annoyed. This is the underlying problem. This is the core, central, very beginning teaching of the Buddha that you need to be able to understand so that you know what's causing your feelings. And then when you understand what's causing your feelings, then if you decide you would like to take action in the world to help provide water or food or clothing to other people, then sure, you can do those kinds of things. But those are decisions you need to make on a case-by-case basis. But that's not how you're going to get to peacefulness, by clothing the entire world, because it's not possible for you to do that, or feeding the entire world. It's not possible for you to do that.
Yeah, I understand. For me, I think like how to train the mind, because I see that if is a subtle difference. Like if we need to have wisdom also to decide when to take action. I think, because with this way of thinking, we might just do nothing, because everything is impermanent. So need the wisdom, need to have to see also when to take action, and so to don't be selfish, not selfish in a judgmental way, but really like if we only aim to our peace, then for me, it's important to also train the mind in the right way, to have the power, the energy to put the intention in taking action.
Yeah, I would share, based on what you're sharing right now, you're not understanding the full spectrum of what the Buddha is teaching you. When you hear me talk about you need to focus on your own mind, you need to uproot your pollutions of mind, you need to train your mind, you're thinking that's the only thing that you need to do, right? So there's so much more to the path to enlightenment than only what you're hearing right now. I would encourage you to learn through the books, to learn through the courses and retreats. There's much more to the path to enlightenment than only what you're hearing in the last 20 minutes or so as we've been talking. So there's helping other people, but you need to understand that that's not going to lead to your peacefulness. And I don't think that you understand that right now, but that's okay. If you decide that you would like to learn more and more and more about the teachings of the Buddha, you can get into it deeper and realize that, yes, there is a component of you practicing generosity, but that's not what's going to lead to your peace and your joy, that by itself. You need to understand what the number one problem is first. And then once you understand that, then you can move on to all the other aspects of the path to enlightenment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions you guys have on anything that I've shared so far? Yes, ma'am.
I'm currently unemployed right now, and I have applied a couple of jobs, and the outcomes are really great. So I have really look down on myself, and I don't know what the. I think I'm not blaming other people. I just I'm just blaming myself, and I don't know how to overcome the mindset about it.
Okay, so any kind of difficulties or struggles that the mind is experiencing, it's all because of these pollutions that the Buddha discovered. And in order to get to an actual solution where your mind can be peaceful and joyful, you would need to learn the entire Eightfold Path. There's not just like a 2-minute teaching or a 5-minute teaching that will explain to you how to get to the peace and joy. The Buddha's taught for 45 years, from the age of 35 to the age of 80. An individual needs to invest a significant amount of time, effort, and energy to learning and practicing the teachings to fully understand the entire path. Like here, the same thing, like you need to understand the entire path in order to get to the peace and joy and eliminate that destructive thinking that the mind has. There's meditation, which is what I helped you guys learn today, but that's not the only thing. There's so many things that you need to learn, and through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress, that's what you gradually learn over time. There's not just one class or 30 minutes of a class that can explain to you how to get to enlightenment. To explain the core central teaching of the Buddha, which is the Eightfold Path, it usually takes me about 2.5 hours to really fully explain it. Then once you understand it the first time, you're going to need to revisit it multiple times before you fully understand it and before you can fully practice it. So the challenges that you guys are experiencing, there's not a 5-minute answer or a 2-minute answer to this. But if you're interested in getting rid of these feelings and emotions that feel sorrow and sad and all these things, it's not from the love, it's not from the care that's causing those feelings to occur. That's not what's causing it. It's your cravings, it's your desires, it's your attachments. And when you sit in a class where a teacher is walking you through understanding the entire path to enlightenment, then you can understand more fully. And then you'll be able to implement the solutions and actually get to real results. So today from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., I'm going to be teaching a class. It's called Introduction to the Teachings of the Buddha. You guys are welcome to come here if you'd like. And I'm going to be starting from the very beginning and showing you guys the very beginning teaching of the Buddha. And then on Monday, I'm going to be teaching a course for 5 days, which is the foundation and the path to enlightenment. We're going to be walking you through all the foundational teachings that it's going to take in order to help you get to enlightenment. And that's a 5-day course to help you get started, right? And there's additional courses and retreats and books, and all of it's available to you at no cost, right? Because I'm confident that what I'm sharing with you, it'll lead to your peace and joy, but you need to be able to make the decision to learn it and practice it, and then you'll actually see the results. So I apologize that I can't give you a 5-minute answer to fix your issues, but if you're interested to really learn how to eradicate the pollutions of the mind and get to the peace and joy, there's opportunities here for you to be able to do that either at the temple or you can join by online. If you can't attend live, it's all recorded. Like right now, our class is being recorded. All the classes that I teach, you can see them on YouTube, on Facebook. You can join by Zoom live, and you can watch the recordings. And a lot of these end up on our podcast as well. We have a podcast. So if you're dedicated to learning and practicing, I will help you. But you need to be able to do the work to see the truth and realize that what you currently know is not 100% the truth. It's not what the Buddha taught 100%. That's why your mind still experiences anger and frustration and disappointment and these other discontent feelings, because the mind is not yet fully awake. But when you get to cultivating the wisdom, your mind can get fully awake and you'll be peaceful and joyful for the rest of your life. Yeah, it just takes time and effort and energy to work in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so it looks like Rachel, you have a question online. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, David and the group. I have a question about meditating in seated position. When I sit for around 10 to 15 minutes, I find myself usually experience numbness in my lower legs. And I tried to put my legs off the mat when I was at the temple, but the numbness also happened. So I'm wondering, do you have any suggestion for me or any tip? Or will this gradually disappear, this numbness gradually disappear when I practice more?
Okay, so if you're ever feeling any numbness in the body or you're feeling any discomfort when you're meditating, it's important to switch positions. This is an indication to you that something's, maybe a nerve is being pinched or circulation is being inhibited. So that's why we have the lying position, we have standing, we have walking. And you can even shift within your seated position. You can shift around if you need to shift. So you would like to get to a comfortable position. That numbness and tingling and anything like that, that's an indication to you that something is problematic in the body. So you can take action to switch to a different position.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere unless we have any here. Anybody here have questions? Let's see what time it is. Okay, it's 10:30, and this is great that we got into a really nice talk here. The class that is typically on today is what's called the Pali Canon English Study Group. This isn't a place where students will normally start. And what we do is we study the original words of the Buddha in this Pali Canon and English Study Group. And what I do is I have a student volunteer to read a particular chapter of the original teachings of the Buddha. Then I share teachings on that chapter for about 5 or 10 minutes. And then I open up to any questions that students have. In other programs, I do more of a traditional style of teaching where I'll be teaching and sharing with you the original teachings of the Buddha. And then about every 20 or 30 minutes, I will stop and look for questions and see if you guys have questions. But on Saturdays, what we do is we do this Pali Canon and English Study Group. And before students usually will study in this particular program, they will take in foundational programs, either a foundational course or one of our other programs where you're developing a foundation. And in this particular program, what we do is we do volumes 2 through 13 of the book series. We have another program called the Group Learning Program where we study volume 1. And each Saturday I go chapter by chapter by chapter, walking students through over a 7-month period, helping them to build a foundation in the teachings of the Buddha that's going to lead to enlightenment. But then on Saturdays, we do the Pali Canon and English Study Group that we do volumes 2 through 13 over the course of a year and a half, gradually helping students to build their wisdom of the original teachings of the Buddha. Right now, we're in volume 11, which is titled The Realms of Existence. This is where you're learning about the cycle of rebirth. Even the cycle of rebirth and the realms of existence can be independently verified. People may not have the wisdom to understand how to verify the cycle of rebirth, but you can actually get to the point where you develop the wisdom to independently verify that the cycle of rebirth is true, that you don't get just one life. And you can also independently verify the different realms that the Buddha taught. These realms of existence and the cycle of rebirth is not something that you will typically start learning when you first get onto the path to enlightenment. It's usually something after about 1.5 years, 2 years, that you start approaching it at that point. When you first get started on the path to enlightenment, you're usually learning the core central teachings of the Buddha, which are things like the 3 universal truths, the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, meditation training, and things like this. So if this is the first time that you've been learning with me, when I switch over here and start sharing with you the Pali Canon and English study group, just understand that this isn't where a student will typically start. So I'll show you guys how this works. But then if you guys would like to really get started on the path to enlightenment, this afternoon from 1 to 4 would be a great time to come in, because I'm going to share with you the very first teaching of the Buddha to help you get started on the path to enlightenment. Or on Monday, when I start sharing the foundation in the path to enlightenment, that's a course where I'm going to be walking students through all the foundational teachings. Even on Sunday, I'm going to be sharing what's called the frequently asked questions. These are 11 frequently asked questions that students have related to the path to enlightenment. So those are all kind of more traditional ways to get started on the path to enlightenment. But here, I'll help you guys to see this, because there's some students that are online and there's some students here that have been studying with me for an extended period of time, and they usually come to learn the Pali Canon and English study group. So here, if there's somebody at the temple or someone in Zoom that would like to volunteer to read this is just about a page, I think, a page and a quarter. And then after a student reads it, then I will share some teachings with you to help you understand what the Buddha is teaching. His words are very clear, very concise, and very precise. You don't really need me to explain it to you, but sometimes some of his teachings are connected to other teachings. So it kind of helps to walk through with a teacher to help you understand how to reflect and glean benefit out of the teachings of the Buddha. You don't need to interpret his teachings. You don't need to figure them out, but it does help to have a teacher kind of guide you through understanding the teachings. But just understand this isn't where a student would normally start. So is there somebody here or somebody on Zoom that would like to volunteer to read this chapter? Sure, Siddharth. Thank you.
The heavenly being's good destination, monks. When a heavenly being is about to pass away from the company of heavenly beings, 5 signs appear. His garlands wither, his clothes get soiled, sweat comes out of his armpits, a dullness descends on his body, he no longer excites in his own heavenly being seat. The heavenly beings, knowing from this that this heavenly being is about to pass away, encourage him with 3 sayings. Go from here, honorable sir, to a good destination. Having gone to a good destination, gain the gain that is good to gain. Having gained the gain that is good to gain, become well established. When this was said, a certain monk said to the perfectly enlightened one, "What, venerable sir, is the heavenly being's fate of going to a good destination? What is their fate of the gain that is good to gain? What is their fate of becoming well established?" The human state, monks, is the heavenly being's fate of going to a good destination. Having become a human being, acquiring conviction in the teachings and discipline taught by the Tathagat, this is the heavenly being's fate of the gain that is good to gain. When that conviction is settled within one, rooted, established, and strong, not to be destroyed by any Brahmin or ascetic, heavenly being, Mara, or Brahma, God, or anyone else in the world, this is the heavenly being's fate of becoming well established. When a heavenly being passes away from the company of heavenly beings, through his lifespan's ending, 3 sounds sound forth, the heavenly being's encouragement. Go from here, honorable sir, to a good destination, to companionship with human beings. On becoming a human being, acquire a conviction unsurpassed in the true teachings. That conviction of yours in the true teachings, well taught, should be settled, rooted, established, undestroyed as long as you live. Having abandoned bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, mental misconduct, and whatever else is flawed, having done with the body what's skillful, and much that is skillful with speech, having done what's skillful with a heart without limit, with no material gain, then, having made much of the merit, that's a ground for spontaneously arising in heaven through giving, establish other mortals in the true teachings and the holy life. With this sympathy, the heavenly beings, when they know a heavenly being is passing away, encourage him, come back, heavenly being, again and again.
Okay, thank you, Siddharth. So the teachings of the Buddha in the path that he shares to enlightenment is not to be reborn in heaven. That's not the ultimate goal of his teachings. You don't get just one life and then somebody judges you on that life and then you either go to a good place or a bad place. The teachings of the Buddha are to guide you to awaken in this life so that you can get to the peace and the joy in this life. But the Buddha teaches about these 5 realms of existence because if you fall short of enlightenment for any reason, there's going to be rebirth. And when you're reborn, you're going to be reborn based on the condition of your mind at the time of death. There's 5 realms that he teaches. He teaches hell, the animal realm, the afflicted spirit realm, the human realm, and the heavenly realm. And none of these realms are permanent. You're not going anywhere to a permanent place because everything around you can see is impermanent. And these realms are impermanent as well. So far in this book, we've studied the hell realm, the animal realm, the afflicted spirit realm, the human realm, and now we've been studying the heavenly realm for several weeks here. This particular book, as I mentioned, is something the students usually move to after about 1.5 years, 2 years of studying. They ultimately get to this point. So this isn't where someone would typically start learning the path to enlightenment. But here, what the Buddha is describing throughout many discourses that are in this section of this book is he's describing the heavenly realm so that people can understand what it is. He's describing, again, the way not the world should be, he's describing the way the world is. The reason why he taught the cycle of rebirth and the reason why he taught these realms of existence is because this is the way that the world is. And as you're training your mind and you're lifting pollution out of your mind, it's not uncommon for you to observe your past lives. You might start to notice and have memories of things that happened in your past life. You might even experience communication with beings from these other realms. Hell realm, of course, the animal realm, you've been in contact with beings. The afflicted spirit realm, which is like ghosts. You may end up having communication with these beings. You've been in the human realm, so you've had plenty of contact with beings in the human realm, and you might experience communication with beings in the heavenly realm. Or you might actually end up seeing these beings at different times. Even though the hell realm, the afflicted spirit realm, and the heavenly realm, these beings are what we call formless. They don't have physical form. As your mind awakens more and more, some people can actually see these beings from the hell realm, the afflicted spirit realm, or the heavenly realm. Well, if you didn't understand the cycle of rebirth and you didn't understand these 5 realms, and you started to experience memories of your past lives, you started experiencing communication with beings from these realms, and or you started to see these beings in real life, your mind would easily be shaken up by that because you don't have the wisdom to understand that what you're experiencing is normal. That it's normal to experience observation of your past lives and having memories from your past lives. It's normal to experience communication from beings from these other realms. And it's normal to be able to see these beings. Some people can see them. So the Buddha is teaching you throughout his teachings the way the world is. And just one component of his teachings is to help you understand the cycle of rebirth so that as your mind is eliminating this pollution and you start experiencing residual memories from your past lives or communication with beings in other realms, or you start seeing beings in these other realms, your mind won't be shaken up by it because you know that it's completely normal. So here he's talking about beings that are dying in the heavenly realm, how they're passing away and what is occurring in this particular realm. In terms of what you can do to use this in order to get to your peace and joy is understand that existence in the heavenly realm is not permanent. It's not a permanent existence like some people might teach. And understand that if you end up experiencing communication or contact or visually seeing beings from the heavenly realm, this is completely normal. But the other details that he's sharing here is not necessarily something that you can apply in your life right now today in order to get to the peace and the joy. And that's why this isn't something that somebody typically starts with when they first start their journeys on the path to enlightenment. So do you guys have any questions on this, either here at the temple or online? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So let's go to another one. We're we have 10 chapters that we study each week as part of the study group. And we don't necessarily have time to study all 10 in this particular class, but I also teach the same class in the evening at 9 p.m. from my home, and I make sure I go through all 10 chapters each week. So let's read another chapter and see where we end up. I usually end class around 11. Is there someone who would like to volunteer to read this chapter? Yeah, Koshi.
Beings are few who are reborn among heavenly beings or human beings because they have not seen the Four Noble Truths. What do you think, monks? Which is more, the little bit of soil in my fingernail or the great earth? Venerable Sir, the great earth is more. The little bit of soil that the perfectly enlightened one has taken up in his fingernail is insignificant. Compared to the great earth, the little bit of soil that the perfectly enlightened one has taken up in his fingernail is not calculable, does not bear comparison, does not amount even to a fraction. So too, monks, those beings are few who, when they pass away as heavenly beings, are reborn among the heavenly beings. But those beings are more numerous who, when they pass away as heavenly beings, are reborn in hell, in the animal realm, in the realm of afflicted spirits. For what reason? Because, monks, they have not seen the Four Noble Truths. What for? The noble truth of discontentedness, the noble truth of the cause of discontentedness, the noble truth of the elimination of discontentedness, the noble truth of the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness. Therefore, monks, an effort should be made to understand this is discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the cause of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the elimination of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness. What do you think, monks? Which is more, the little bit of soil in my fingernail or the great earth? Venerable Sir, the great earth is more. The little bit of soil that the perfectly enlightened one has taken up in his fingernail is insignificant. Compared to the great earth, the little bit of soil that the perfectly enlightened one has taken up in his fingernail is not calculable, does not bear comparison, does not amount even to a fraction. So too, monks, those beings are few who, when they pass away as heavenly beings, are reborn among human beings. But those beings are more numerous who, when they pass away as heavenly beings, are reborn in hell, in the animal realm, in the realm of afflicted spirits. For what reason? Because, monks, they have not seen the Four Noble Truths. What for? The noble truth of discontentedness, the noble truth of the cause of discontentedness, the noble truth of the elimination of discontentedness, the noble truth of the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness. Therefore, monks, an effort should be made to understand this is discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the cause of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the elimination of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness.
Okay, thank you, Kushi. So here, the Buddha is helping his students to learn something through a little bit of an analogy that he's sharing. He's asking them, what's more, this soil that's under my fingernail or the great earth, all the soil on the earth? And they say, well, of course, the soil of the great earth is much more. The amount of soil under your fingernail is insignificant. It's not calculable. And the Buddha compares this to the number of beings that are dying in the heavenly realm and then being reborn back into the heavenly realm or back into the human realm. He says it's very few beings that die in the heavenly realm and reborn back into the heavenly realm or back into the human realm. They're more likely going to be reborn into the realm of hell, the animal realm or the realm of afflicted spirits. The Buddha never uses rebirth as a way to guilt, shame, or fear somebody into learning or practicing his teachings. He doesn't use guilt, shame, or fear to help people to get onto a path where he's helping you to eliminate guilt, shame, and fear. Sometimes when you hear about things like hell realm or some of these other things, people will sometimes use this as a way to kind of guilt, shame, or fear somebody into learning a particular set of teachings. But the Buddha didn't do this. He's just explaining what is actually truly occurring so that somebody understands what's truly occurring. You'll never see him pressuring anybody or trying to guilt, shame, or fear somebody into learning and practicing his teachings. But there is this cycle of rebirth. It can be independently verified. And he's explaining to you that once a being is reborn in the heavenly realm and they die, it's very rare for them to be reborn back into heaven or into the human realm, that they're more likely to be reborn into the lower realms. And then he says the reason why is because they haven't understood the Four Noble Truths. They haven't learned and understood the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths is the very first teaching that you need to understand in order to have this breakthrough to fully understanding what's causing your discontent feelings in the mind. I'm going to be sharing this afternoon in the course from 1 to 4. I'm going to be teaching the Four Noble Truths. This is where you understand the problem in the unenlightened mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And I'm going to walk students through slowly but surely so that they can then independently verify what's causing your own discontent feelings. Because if you didn't understand what's causing your feelings, you wouldn't actually be able to eliminate them and then build all the other teachings of the Buddha on top of that. So he starts you off with right view. It's called right view, or the Four Noble Truths, having the right view of what's truly causing your own discontent feelings. Because once you understand what's causing these feelings, then you can actually eliminate them. So here he's saying the reason why beings are reborn into hell, into the animal realm, or into afflicted spirit realm is because they haven't understood this Four Noble Truths. They haven't had this breakthrough to understanding what's causing their discontent feelings. So essentially the mind's remaining polluted. And with a polluted mind, when you get to the end of your life, it's going to produce rebirth and then cause you to come back into the world. That's not the ultimate motivation of why somebody would be interested to get to enlightenment, is to eliminate rebirth. That is one of the benefits of getting to enlightenment, is that you don't experience rebirth. But the ultimate goal of getting to enlightenment is so that you can get to the peace and the joy in this life. You can get to very fulfilling, very satisfying relationships where you don't need to keep experiencing the painful feelings over and over and over and over and over again. And in order to accomplish that, you would need to start with the Four Noble Truths. And that's what the Buddha is pointing out here. In many parts of his teachings, he will point to the Four Noble Truths and say, that is where you need to start. That's the beginning of the path. If you were to take a hiking trail that's, say, 5-kilometer hike through the mountains. At the beginning of the hiking trail, there's a trailhead with usually a sign that tells you the name of the trail, how long it's going to be, kind of shows you a little map, and kind of gives you a little bit of details about the path that you're going to take this hike for several hours. Well, the Four Noble Truths is that trail marker for the teachings of the Buddha. It gives you an understanding of the path to enlightenment. So that's why the Buddha starts students with this very first teaching. This isn't the Four Noble Truths itself. This is the Four Noble Truths in summary form, but it's actually much more detailed than this. So that's why you would need to sit down with the teacher and be able to learn and understand, and the teacher can walk you through these Four Noble Truths so that you can have this breakthrough to understanding what's causing these discontent feelings so that then you can actually eliminate them. So that's what the Buddha's pointing out here, that's what's going to help you to now get to this liberation of mind, this freedom from strong feelings, the peace, the joy, and it's what helps you to escape the cycle of rebirth. But without understanding the Four Noble Truths, you wouldn't have the ability to get to enlightenment, and there's the potential to be reborn into these lower realms. So that's what the Buddha is helping you to understand here. Any questions here on this chapter? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here. So let's see what the next chapter is. I have about 10 more minutes left in class. Okay, so that was all the chapters. We studied probably a good 30 chapters, 40 chapters about the heavenly realm. Now we're moving into this next section of this book, that is titled The Long Course of the Cycle of Rebirth. Here, the Buddha is giving you a bunch of details about the cycle of rebirth itself. Now that he's shared each of the 5 individual realms, now he's going to teach about the cycle of rebirth itself. And let me see what this one is. Yeah, we can study this one. Would somebody like to read this one? Anybody like to read this one? Yes, ma'am. There's a mic right behind you.
A smile of an eon. For never saw how long is an eon. An eon is long, monk. It is not easy to count it and say it is so many years, or so many hundreds of years, or so many thousands of years, or so many hundreds of thousands of years. Then is it possible to give a smile, vulnerable soul? It is possible, monk, the perfectly enlightened one said. Suppose, monk, there was a great stone mountain, a Johanna, 12 to 15 kilometers long, a Johanna wide, and a Johanna high without holes or crevices, one solid mass of rock. At the end of every 100 years, a man would strike it once in a piece of Cassian cloth. That great stone mountain might by this effort be worn away and eliminated, but the eon would still not have come to an end. So long as an eon, monk, and of eons of such length, we have wandered through so many eons, so many hundreds of eons, so many thousands of eons, so many hundreds of thousands of eons. For what reason? Because, monk, the cycle of rivers is without discoverable beginning. A first point is not identifiable of beings roaming and wandering one, hindered by ignorance, unknowing of true reality, and fettered by craving. For such a long time, monk, you have experienced discontentedness, misery, and disaster, and swelled the cemetery. It is enough to experience fading away of strong feelings toward all conditions, enough to become free from strong feelings toward them, enough to be liberated from them.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So here the Buddha is giving a simile on how long an eon is. He will often talk when he describes the cycle of rebirth or these various realms. He will talk about them in terms of an eon, that a life in the heavenly realm is 5 eons or 10 eons or something like this. And the word eon is used as an immeasurable amount of time. During the lifetime of the Buddha, kind of the highest number that they were able to count to was about 100,000. We invented the word million about 500 years ago. And even the word billion and trillion and all these other ways of referring to numbers, they couldn't count that high during 2,500 years ago. So we know that based on what scientists share with us, the Earth itself is about 4.5 billion years old, right? And we can't even fathom that amount of time because we live for about 80 years old, 60 to 100 years old is what we live. And that seems like a pretty long time to us. But when you look at the whole cycle of the world, 4.5 billion years is such a significant amount of time we can't even fathom that amount of time. And back during the lifetime of the Buddha often would refer to things in terms of an eon. And he would say it's an incalculable amount of time. It's immeasurable. And then the student is like, well, can you at least kind of give us a simile to help us understand generally how long this is? And the Buddha says, okay, well, say there's this great stone mountain that's 12 to 15 kilometers wide, 12 to 15 kilometers high, and 12 to 15 kilometers deep. And every 100 years, somebody would take a piece of cloth and swipe on that mountain. And he said, okay, after this mountain is completely gone, has worn away, the eon would still be going on. That's how long an eon is, a very long extended amount of time. So whether that's actually nowadays, whether that's 1 million years or 500 million years or 2 million years, and they just couldn't count that high, unsure, but the Buddha is describing it as an immeasurable amount of time. We know that the Earth, again, has been here for 4.5 billion years, but in terms of the universe that we're in, the galaxy that we're in, we don't necessarily know. And what the Buddha is describing here is that the beginning of the cycle of rebirth is undiscoverable. right? Right here, he's saying that the cycle of rebirth is without discoverable beginning. Because sometimes what we think is, we're like, well, how did this all start? Right? If you're in this life now, you might be thinking like, how did all this get started? And this is oftentimes a question that the mind can crave. It can long and yearn. It can want to know, how did we all get started? How did we come to be? Why are we here in this world? And this can be a question that the mind can almost become obsessed with. Well, what the Buddha is saying is, it's not discoverable to figure this out. We can use modern technology today to try to generally figure out when the earth started. But scientists have different perspectives on this. There's some scientists that say one number, some scientists that say another number, some scientists say a different number. Well, whenever the world started is when the world started. None of us were truly there, so we don't necessarily know. And at this point in time, it doesn't actually matter when the world started or when the cycle of rebirth started. What the Buddha points out time and time again in his teachings is that you're in this life, you're in the cycle of rebirth. Your mind is discontent. You're experiencing sadness and anger and frustration and irritation and all these other discontent feelings. The goal is to get to the point where your mind is experiencing peace and joy in this life. So when this world really started, or when the cycle of rebirth really started, it's actually irrelevant. It doesn't actually matter. And even if it did matter, what the Buddha is describing is it's undiscoverable. It's not possible for us to truly figure out exactly when things started. But it doesn't really truly matter, because you're in existence now. Your mind is unenlightened. It's experiencing sadness and anger and frustration and other discontent feelings. And if you would like to solve that, the teachings of the Buddha are going to help you to be able to accomplish that. So that's essentially what you can gather from a teaching like this. And here he shares that for such a long time, monks, you have experienced discontentedness, misery, and disaster, and swelled the cemetery, meaning you've had countless rebirths over and over and over and over and over and over again. You've been reborn over and over and over again. Experience misery and sorrow and grief and pain and displeasure. And what he's encouraging you to do is focus on liberation. Focus on getting to enlightenment, because you've been stuck in these feelings for so long, not just in this life, but other lives too. If you just have insight into this life, think about all the times you've ever been sad or irritated or jealous or annoyed or frustrated or bored or lonely. That takes up a lot of time in your life. And if you can get liberated from all of those feelings, wow, life can be so fulfilling and so enjoyable and so wonderful, so satisfying. So that's what the Buddha is saying, is it's enough. It's enough to experience this liberation of mind. Like, you'll be completely satisfied and completely fulfilled getting to that enlightened mental state. So any questions on this chapter, either here at the temple or online? No? Let's see if we have any. Oh, there we go. Rachel. Yes, ma'am. What's your question?
David, could you help me understand as well the symmetry? Does that mean because the discontent is so huge, like the discontent is misery and the disaster, because they are so huge, so they swell the cemetery?
Swelling the cemetery is because you've had so many countless rebirths, that you've had so many bodies that you've taken up, that you've filled up the cemetery, and now there's so many bodies from the countless rebirths that you've experienced. That's what he's explaining. And he explains in other discourses too, where he talks about this countless rebirths that you've experienced.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to end class here by just thanking you guys for coming. Thank you for your questions and the conversation to be able to help you to understand the path to enlightenment. There's just a little bit of content here in this class to be able to help you understand a little bit. Remember, this is the Pali Canon and English study group that students usually will move into after they've graduated from various learning, not officially graduated, but they've kind of developed their foundation and then kind of moving into this program to really fill out their framework. There's various foundational programs that you build like a framework to understand the teachings of the Buddha. And then this program kind of helps you to fill that in. So if you're interested in really understanding the beginning of the teachings of the Buddha from 1 to 4 today would be ideal. And then Monday, starting from the very beginning, I'm going to walk students through the foundation and the path to enlightenment. And even on Sunday, you'll see that tomorrow at 9 a.m., I'm going to be teaching in a more traditional style of learning, where I'm just going to be teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching and helping you understand the path to enlightenment. So if you guys would like to join for any of those classes or courses and retreats, you can come here, or you can attend online through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. There's always help for you to be able to learn this path. And just let me know what questions you guys have, either during class or after class. You're always welcome to reach out, and I'm here to help you. So thank you for joining for today's class, and perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Have a lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Sawadee khap. Sawadee khap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.